from a Kurdish perspective. In 1991, after Saddam Hussein had been forced back out of Kuwait, he started to attack the Kurdish people. And after suffering the chemical bombardment, there was this huge exodus of the Kurds into the mountains in Turkey and Iran. If it hadn't been for the journalists, the Western journalists, The Guardian, the BBC, ITN, Channel 4, the FT, if it hadn't been for the journalists, millions of Kurds would have died through starvation, through freezing to death, and through murder, through slaughter by Saddam Hussein. So I think we Kurds owe the world media a great debt of gratitude. So I'm thanking all of you on behalf of everybody. So I've done my political speech. So now I will come to the award this evening. And I have to say, when William asked me to present this award and to speak about my friend and my colleague, I did say I was honored. I would be honored to give this award, and indeed I am. The award for a lifetime's achievement goes to a gentleman who is Kurdish, Iraqi. He has he has worked for many years as a journalist for newspapers such as Al Hayat and others. A few years ago, he was called to Baghdad to be the chief of staff of President Jalal Talabani. And I can tell you that is no mean task. And he accomplished it and did a wonderful job. Now he has returned to London and he's working once again at Hayat newspaper. I think people like this gentleman, who are Kurdish, but they write in Arabic and they speak to the Arabic world and to the other world, to the outside world beyond the Middle East. I think they are a vital bridge for us in the Middle East. I was just having a chat with a colleague, with a friend at our table, and I was saying one of the problems in the Middle East, whether you're Iranian, you're Israeli, Palestinian, Kurdish, Arab, Iraqi, whatever, one of the problems we have is everybody's so damned insecure. You know, none of us accept anybody else. None of us accept you have also suffered. We all share this land. We all share this piece of territory. I accept you, I recognize you, and now let's move on. I think we need people like Mr. Kamran Karadaghi, who speak in different languages, who speak so eloquently about peace, who deepen the understanding between Arabs and Kurds, and beyond that as well. I think Mr. Kamran Karadaghi deserves more than just an award, but I'm so pleased and honored to present this award to you.
Thank you very much. This was really a complete surprise for me tonight, and I am very glad that I decided to come this evening to this event, and not otherwise I would have missed my award. Thank you very much. I am honored to receive this award, and as my friend Bayan said, I worked for many different newspapers, magazines. I was also a broadcaster, and I remember in 1974 I was in the mountains with the Kurdish movement, and at that time we decided to have a clandestine radio station in different languages, in Kurdish, Arabic, in English, in Turkmen, in Assyrian, and I was in charge of the Arabic service of that radio station, and which was called the Voice of Kurdistan. we started it, and then we started in other languages. Particularly in one language was in Assyrian language. And we had a team of Assyrian journalists and broadcasters who started the service. And then after 2 or 3 months, I remember, once an Assyrian friend who lived abroad, he came to Kurdistan. And he came and visited us. He went to the Assyrian service. Then he came and he said, do you know that when they start every day they start broadcasting, they have this hymn, Assyrian hymn. But do you know what is it about? And we said, no, we don't know, but it is a national Assyrian hymn. He said, yes, but do you know the words? We said, no. He said, well, the words this hymn says that this is the land of Assyrians, which is usurped by the Kurds, by the Kurdish colonialists. It is all against the Kurds. So then we spoke to our colleagues in the Assyrian service, and they said, well, yes, it is true, it's not like that, but this is our national song and things like that. So, and we didn't say anything. We couldn't, we let them continue on that. So that was a very interesting experience at that time. And here in London, since 1980 I was in London, and then I worked for Al Hayat newspaper, and also a very interesting work. I started in Al Hayat being in charge of Soviet affairs, because I know Russian language and I studied in Russia. And then when the Gulf War started, Saddam invaded Kuwait, I became an expert on Iraq and Kurds. And later, after 10 years, I moved to Prague and I became a broadcaster. I established Radio Free Iraq in Prague. After 6 years, I returned back to London, and then I went to Baghdad, and I became President Talabani's Chief of Staff. And my relations with Talabani goes back to 1963. I know him since then. And we have a very interesting relationship with him. I'm sorry, this is my phone. Probably Talabani is calling. So when he became president, he asked me to go and help him, and I knew that it would be a very difficult job to do, because first of all we were friends. We had a friendship relationship. But on the other hand, he was the president and I was supposed to work for him. And then it was very difficult to make the shift from being a journalist and a columnist, and all the time I was against all kind of governments, and suddenly I must become a spokesman for the government. But it was a very interesting experience for 2.5 years. And then I decided that enough is enough, and I retired and came back to London. And I am very glad tonight to be here with you and receive this award. Thank you very much.